Over the last couple of weeks, since the devastating fires that just ravished Southern California, the government has been scrambling in order to make executive orders, mandates that are to help aid the affected homeowners, renters, and businesses, including students in the schools in the area. And while this is a very by minute approach to what's happening, and there are a lot more questions than there are definitive answers, what I hope to do, at least as of January 20th, is compare a lot of questions real estate agents have to what the government bodies actually say the rules and regulations are, and things real estate agents should be aware of when communicating with the public, whether they're in a fire-affected zone or not. The more you understand about the rules and regulations that are in place, the better you can advise somebody who needs help. One of the biggest questions that's happening is, what exactly does the new order mean about capping rental rates for the affected areas? So there is an executive order from Gavin Newsom. Effectively, the way it's being reported is you can't do a rental. In other words, take a lease agreement or agree to a month-to-month rental agreement that constitutes a payment monthly for more than 10% over the advertised price of that rental before January 6th. But it's not really quite that simple. So anything on the market as of January 6th, you can only accept a rental agreement at most if the possible renter or tenant is going to overbid what your monthly ask is. You're capped at 10%. But if a property goes on the market for lease January 7th or after, there is another formula that we have to use that I think the agents have missed. And that is, any of these properties are subject to 160% of what HUD's estimated rental value for that like property is. So the example that I'm going to use here is for Calabasas. So in the Calabasas zip code, a 4-bedroom house, HUD shows a rental rate average of $5,550 a month. Now, those of you who work the Calabasas area are going to go, what? That's extremely low. And you're right, that isn't the market rate. That's what HUD has the guideline as. So now a landlord can only charge 160% above that HUD price of $5,550. So times that by 160%, you get $8,880 a month is the top that you can rent that place for. There are no exceptions that I can find to this rule whatsoever, and understand that yes, it is a lower rate than what the average market price in Calabasas is right now and before the fires in January. So keep that in mind, working rentals or having conversations with landlords that may be renting property. So there may have been some other things you've seen regarding taxes. So anybody residing in LA County has had their tax filings extended until October 15th. But what we need to remember and needs to be pointed out is this is for state filing, not federal. So if you're an LA County resident, you can file your state taxes up until October 15th without penalty. There has been no direction from the Fed, so your bigger filing is still in question and would be by the normal due date. Also, the sales and use tax filing that affects a lot of business owners for LA County has been extended till April 30th. Again, this is a state tax, so that we're not talking federal. Newsom has also said that they're suspending the permitting and review requirements for California Environmental Quality Act and the California Coastal Act, which is the coastal commission that a lot of you in those areas are very well aware of. Now, while on its face that sounds great, maybe less red tape, we'll get to rebuilding faster, it's not really quite that simple because the Coastal Commission and air quality boards are still going to be involved in permitting What they're saying is that they are going to try and expedite the process and also eliminate some of the red tape. But what exactly that is and how that would benefit somebody trying to rebuild, we do not know at this time. Also, in LA County, they are moving to streamline the approval process for ADUs. It will still require approval, but again, this is supposed to streamline, cut down red tape to make the process move faster. The exact details of this are still not published, and I cannot find them anywhere in writing for LA County or the state of California. The other one that you'll see is gouging of rent, the hotel motel costs, but it also includes building materials and construction. Now, that is to assume construction would be construction costs. So that would be the actual amount per project that a construction company, general contractor, and crew is charging in order to complete a construction project. It's now considered illegal, and they're asking that it be reported. Now, what I cannot point to is exact figures of what gouging of rent, hotel, motel costs would actually be, or if there's going to be some sort of mandate from a government body stating what the maximum, let's say, per hour or per type of job that a contractor could charge somebody for completing one of these projects, even if it's not a full rebuild. That's still unknown, but be aware of it. The one that the Department of Real Estate has been sending out to all of us that have real estate licenses, and there's been talked a lot in basically every brokerage in Southern California, is regarding real estate speculators, and it's unlawful to make unsolicited and undervalued offers to affected zip codes for the next 3 months. So this ends in kind of the mid-April of this year, if it's not extended. The idea on this one is that people that are in the affected zones, whether they lost a home, damaged home, but they're in those areas, are likely to receive offers from cash buyers or cash entities saying, hey, we'll get you cash in hand now, sell us your property, with the intention that they're going to hold the property long term and do some sort of development or rebuilding on it and then sell it later for a profit. Now, we might turn our nose up in this situation and say, oh my gosh, that's horrible. They're preying on poor people. But there are situations where somebody who has been affected in these areas, even if they haven't had a total loss of their home, it may be in their best interest to sell, cash out if they're in a position to do so, and buy somewhere else, rent somewhere else. So really here we're talking about undervalued and unsolicited offers. So this is somebody who does not have their house or land on the market, and they receive in the mail, via text, via email, however somebody gets a hold of them, an offer to purchase their property that also has to be under fair market value. Now, right now, I'm sure we can all guess, it would be very difficult for any of us to assign fair market value for, let's say, a single family home that's burnt down in an area where that neighborhood is destroyed, because there aren't any comparables. Because even if we value simply the land that could be sold, we are not quite yet capable of maybe predicting what sort of structure and what kind of value that new structure, the single family home, let's say, is going to be worth in the future once it's built, or how long the approval process and rebuilding is going to be for that project. On top of it, just because we can place a general market value on what a piece of land that size for that kind of use would be worth in a normal situation, we are very far away from what would be considered normal. In this case, that plot of land might be sitting in a neighborhood that all the businesses, schools, and everything has been completely destroyed, and may be, for lack of a better term, a ghost town for the next couple of years. So how we assign value to that land right now, I cannot answer. But in this case, any agent, whether you're with our company or not, I highly suggest that you take any of these scenarios directly to your broker for guidance. Also, there are new limits on evictions of renters who are offering either for free or paid boarding for fire victims. So the way to understand this is that if you rent a, let's say, home, and you've got a landlord, but you have spare bedrooms, and you offer those bedrooms up for rent or donate the bedrooms to somebody affected by the fire, your landlord is going to have a problem evicting you for non-payment of rent. The exact terms of which I have not been able to track down from LA County or any real estate related entity in California yet. So that will be forthcoming. Also, I got asked about rent rights should you take in a roommate. That law hasn't changed. Hypothetically, it'd be more or less the same one that's on your real estate exam, which of course most of you would not remember. But it actually depends on if you rent out a room, whether you're doing a sandwich lease or whether you are just offering lodging to somebody. Now, keep in mind that the blanket law states that if you take somebody into your property, whether you rent it or whether you own it, it depends on how that person pays you rent. So if you rent the property and you pay the rent in full to the landlord and your, let's call it roommate, pays you directly, they are a lodger, but they will be subject to additional protection under the law once they have remained in the property that you rent for more than 30 days. If they are making their part of the payment directly to the landlord, that opens up a whole separate set of tenant rights for them, separate from you, which means evictions would have to be handled through the actual landlord and not you as the lessee of the property. It also differs whether or not you own the home. In this case, if you own the home and you are renting rooms, after 30 days, they have tenancy. So you are subject to eviction laws. Also, when we talk about insurance, there are a couple things that are important that are coming up. If a home is owned in a trust, but your insurance is in the name of the individual that is a part of that trust, there can be a problem with your insurance company. And of course, people are just now figuring this out when they are going to put in claims for total loss or severe damage to their homes that were affected by the fire, that they own the home in, let's say, the Bonafetti Trust, but their insurance is under Jeff Bonafetti. There is a clash here. It's very easy to have that fixed with your current provider for insurance. It just requires a couple of extra documents to be added to your policy. So if you are not currently in this situation, this is a good time to advise all your past clients, sphere of influence, family members, and yourself to make sure that your insurance matches the entity or names of the person that's insured in the way you own the home. Also, be careful with the social media, things like GoFundMe. There have been a lot of them popping up where it's help us rebuild. That is verbiage that not only FEMA, but also your insurance company can use to deny all or partial of your claim of loss or use of property. You have to use other verbiage like, help us get through a trying time, and also do not take this as gospel. This is just basic recommendations. But the idea of rebuild after the fire could cause problems with insurance or any government agency that's offering assistance and emergency funds, in this case, FEMA. Insurance claims may be denied if the premium is not continued to be paid. Keep that in mind. That has not been changed yet. There was talk about moratoriums on insurance payments. That has not happened in writing, so please pay attention to making sure those payments are being made if they're being made monthly. If a home is owned outright, insurance payout is not usually required to be used to rebuild. This is a question we get a lot is, they owned the home outright, but it burnt down. So now they own the property, but there's no house on it, and they can put in an insurance claim. Can they sell that land, since there's no loan, and move and still get the insurance payout? The general answer to that question is yes. If there is a loan that needs to be paid, it has to be paid in full, and any of the additional funds can be used typically at the owner's discretion. So they can use it to rent another property or buy another property. They're not required usually by law to have to rebuild a like-kind structure on the land. But there are certain loans where that is attached to the loan agreement that you have, that subject to total loss, that the home will be rebuilt with insurance money. It's a little bit rare, but you need to be aware of it. Also, your insurance policy could have a rider in it or language that states that the payout can only be used to rebuild the structure that it's insuring. So you need to be careful before just taking money and leaving, that you aren't violating something in either your loan contract or your insurance contract, because you really don't want to be dealing with being accused of insurance fraud down the line. So how is a real estate agent supposed to navigate these questionable waters? First thing, please, for the love of God, do not use this and this tragedy as an opportunity to try and take advantage of anybody. That is hopefully completely beneath you, but it is completely against the code of ethics for any real estate agent or realtor, period. And I think it should be for any business. But that does not mean that there won't be people that need your help. The best way you can help is to make sure you can direct people to the correct places to get the actual authoritative answers. Just because a real estate broker is sitting here and talking to you on screen does not mean it's the law of the land. These are basic guidelines for you to be able to direct people to do their own research and make their own decisions. More than ever, understanding your loan documents, understanding your insurance documents, and actually understanding the documents that the government, the state of California in this case, is putting out on the regular, and having a working knowledge of them is going to be more important than ever before you take any steps to do anything. But as real estate agents, one of the things that we can always offer, not only an ear, because God forbid, think about being in that situation. And we've got agents that have lost their homes, their family homes, their memories. It's very, 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 very difficult. But we can be that force that can help solve the problems and direct the people in need to the answers directly. And as always, please utilize your broker and your common sense to help guide people to make the right decision.